Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek. And yesterday, I made a video where I said 3 things that are destroying the comic book hobby. And I always feel like it's important to balance things out. So if I'm going to say some really negative things, I got to say some positive things that could potentially save the hobby. And actually, that's really the word that I have to say with this video: potential. These things, if they're implemented, will save the hobby. And actually, I'm going to give you a 4th thing that's a bonus thing at the end. So you got to stay tuned for that. But it's definitely something that can save the hobby. So what are the, if you watch, I recommend you watch yesterday's video to see the 3 things that are destroying the hobby. But let's get into what's potentially saving the hobby. One thing is the movies. So if you watched the last one, I kind of mentioned the movies as well. But there's a few movies that are coming up that actually have fans excited. And the most obvious one of those is Deadpool number 2 or 3. The Deadpool versus Wolverine. Actually, it's not even called Deadpool. It's called Deadpool versus Wolverine. That movie is getting the fans excited because generally the Deadpool movies have been pretty good, and people enjoy it. They, they're fun. They're just, pure man, like slash and hack and violence and superheroism and just coolness. And people like that. And there's a few other movies that are coming out that people are a little bit excited about. So if they start producing hit after hit, good movies of quality, where they have good acting, good writing, no agenda, that's a big thing, no agenda, and just stick with good storytelling, I think, fans will start coming back to the movies. And when people start getting back into the movies, well, they get back into the comics that are the source for those characters. People always like to have that connection to something that they really enjoyed. And comics are that thing. Like when I did my interview series, I was talking to lots of collectors that they all had this sort of same story arc to their collecting experience. They said, oh, when I was young, I collected comics, and then I stopped collecting for a while. And then the movies, like the Avengers movies and the Spider-Man movies and the Infinity War and all these movies that were really, really great, got me back into the hobby. Made me kind of wanted to check out those stories again. And you hear that a lot. I was surprised how many times I heard it when I was doing my interview series. And I think that is a really major thing where people do want to have a piece of that. And if buying this comic, gives you that piece of connection to that movie or to that good experience that you had, then you do it, right? So if they start producing movies where we start caring about the characters again, and we say, hey, I really like Spider-Man, he's so cool, or I really like Deadpool, or I really like Wolverine, then generally people will start wanting to get those comics and getting back into the hobby. The next thing that's kind of similar in a way is comic light, but it's actually manga. So manga is actually very successful right now. When I actually, there was a comic shop that opened up in one of the stores near me, and when I went in, I was like, oh, okay, this is a comic shop. And it was not a comic shop. It was a manga shop for the most part. And comics were like a very small section. And this was actually back in my original, before I came to Ottawa. And it was a huge store. It was a huge store, and they basically they had this huge section all for manga and a whole bunch of Funko Pops too. It's a big Funko Pops section as well. But then like one shelf was for for comics. It was almost embarrassing because they called themselves a comic shop. But what it is manga has really, really great stories, and they're Japanese in terms of their origin. But what it is getting younger readers involved. And that, if we can sort of tap into that, those readers that enjoy manga, and say, hey, look, there's these older comics. Don't get them looking at the modern comics, but the older comics that are similar, we'll probably can get them into the hobby. And that's really, really important that, you get these younger readers into the hobby and really re-energize the hobby by getting a new fan base built by leveraging other things that are very similar to comics. Like manga is not that far off from comics. It's not a big leap to go from manga reading to comic reading. They're different in terms of their style and some of the story style, but for the most part, people that would enjoy manga would probably enjoy a lot of the like classic golden or silver, bronze age, or even copper age comics. They'd probably enjoy that stuff because it's, the storytelling was good back then. You get better storytelling. So the point is that I see that as something that just the excitement that is going around with manga could definitely bring in potential saviors for the comic book industry. Now, the third thing is us. So when I was living in Korea, I lived in Korea for 3 years. There was 3 types of white people. It's like the weirdest thing to say, but there was 3 types of white people. One, they were teachers, which I was. I was a teacher, English teacher. And there was like a lot of English teachers. That was big majority of the white people that you would see. And then the other white people that you'd see would be U.S. military, because in Korea there was a massive U.S. military base in Seoul, and so those were the 2 big groups. But the third big group were like these Mormon missionaries. Just like, it was amazing how many Mormon missionaries there were going there to convert people to Mormonism. And basically what you saw is like, these 3 groups. And the Mormons were like always like, they had a white shirt and a little tie. But their whole purpose was to convert people to their religion. Well, comics are kind of our religion. This is what we like. We worship them now. But we enjoy the hobby, and we can be ambassadors to potential new readers, and we can show it to our children. We can get people engaged. If you have young kids, read comics to them. They always say read books to your kids. Well, read comics to your kids. And get people that maybe collect cards or other things to start reading comics. Be an ambassador for the hobby. And I think if you can convert like 2 or 3 people, that's all you need, right? If everyone does that, we can sort of build up the hobby a bit. So I think that's really important. So just to recap, the 3 things that I mentioned were movies, if they start making good movies again; manga, which is to get people that are already enjoying comic-like things to enjoy comics; and us. We're ambassadors for the hobby, and we can encourage people to also embrace the hobby. And the last thing, and this is the weirdest one maybe, is there is a actual hope. So one of the complaints that I made in the previous video was about how comics have sort of disenfranchised their own fan base. They just don't tell the stories that appeal to their own fans. Well, if you go to Kickstarter, what is happening, a lot of the people that are doing self-publishing, and I think self-publishing is a 4th kind of piece to all of this, where you get sort of these people who love comics, truly love comics, and they're producing stuff that they love. It's passion, and they understand the hobby. They understand what they're writing. And what they're doing is they're putting it out there, and they're engaging an audience. They're building audiences in some cases. And that kind of ambassadorship is like taking the 3rd point that I made and just sort of building on it. Well, that kind of, Kickstarter, crowdsource funding kind of method of getting good content out modern good content, which is super important, is something that I think can really revive the hobby, because you don't have the restriction. I think of the Ripaverse, how successful that was. I mean, that made millions of dollars. And it just shows you that if you are passionate and you really, want to write good stories, and you can engage a fan base, you can really do well in comics. And that's something that almost seems unbelievable nowadays, because comics have been sort of a dead hobby for a little bit. Well, this is something that could really resurge the hobby, because people, if we start telling stories and getting books out there, then we can, revive the love for the hobby, and because we can share that passion. And if you want to share my passion, it's a good segue. Well, you can check out my Kickstarter, where I basically introduce female characters from the Golden Age, and I show you why I love them. I tell their origin stories. I show some pretty cool pinup art, and you can check out that Kickstarter by following the link in the description. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. There's some pretty amazing artwork, and it's a cool thing if you're interested in Golden Age, or if you're just interested in comics. It's just a great way to learn about some of these comics that were, or comic characters that were fundamental to the Golden Age. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me your feedback. I'd love to hear what things you think could save the hobby. And bye for now.